All right, this question comes to us from Rochester, Michigan. Questions about refinishing a pool. So they are looking at what the options would be to resurface a gunite pool. They bought the house last year. The pool was inspected. During the inspection, they said the marcite was beginning to crack in some areas and there's a lot of copper and iron staining. They're on well water, and they don't feel that the previous owners did a great job filtering the water when they filled it. The pool, they said during the inspection, it would probably need to be resurfaced within the next couple of years. These are brand new to a pool owners. Depending on the price, they were interested in what their options would be and would like to discuss aqua bright versus a pebble type finish, and they would also like some information on marcite to explore their options. It's a 20 by 40 freeform, 30,000 gallons, deep end being 9 feet deep, and the coping and tile was redone in 2003. So could you give us an overview of what the different choices would be for resurfacing and the price points maybe approximately or in relation to each other, and then let's address also the water chemistry, what to do if you're on a well, but then if there's copper staining, if you could tell us about where that would come from as well, please.
Okay. All right, let's just start with this one. I see the pictures. Tile and coping done in 2003, which is 15 or 16 years ago, but it looks decent, looks good. So let's assume for the time being that the tile and coping are good. Let's talk just the surface. What are all the options? And let's just go through all of the known options today. Least expensive, first and foremost, would be paint. Either a latex-based paint or an epoxy-based paint to repaint the surface of the pool. And what that would do would hide the stains, so you'd get a nice consistent surface. It would also soften some of the edges of the roughness where marcite over time starts to get, it almost feels like sandpaper. A layer of paint on there would help. That's the least expensive option. Not the option that I would ever tend to send someone toward, but that would be the least expensive. I'm guessing cost to paint a pool is in the neighborhood of $1,500 to $2,000 probably to paint a pool. Downside to painting a pool is once you paint it, you have to continually paint it every few years or sandblast it off to be able to put another finish on. So that's least expensive. The next, let's talk marcite. Marcite would be the next least expensive surface. And what marcite is, it's a marble dust, a crushed marble dust and white Portland cement blend. And that's a traditional white plaster finish that you would see in just about every single solitary pool built until like the early 2000s. Just about all pools had that finish. There were a few colored plaster, and we certainly got a few quartz-based finishes that were starting to show up. But up until about 2000, everything just about was a white marcite. Cost in terms of resurfacing. Now, this also depends on the existing surface, how adhered it is to the original gunite, because there may be a lot of prep work to get the surface ready and etch and break up that surface to get the new plaster finish over. But basic assumption is the current surface is discolored and rough, but it's in good integrity because we need the integrity of the old surface to put the new surface on top of. Marcite, I'm going to guess 20 by 40 pool in the neighborhood of $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, somewhere there. Advantage to that is cost. Downside really to that is the marble dust is fairly soft, and over time it breaks up, and as the pool surface starts to degrade because the water chemistry isn't perfect and it's pulling the calcium out of the surface, that tends to get really rough and crumble, and there's really no easy way to fix it. but that's going to be your second least expensive option. Then you talk about Aqua Bright or any other quartz-based finish. There's several different brands out there of a quartz-based finish, and that's a quartz dust, ground up quartz dust mixed in a Portland cement, plastered on. Typically they have some color associated with pigment color as well as stone color, gives it a little more exotic finish. That surface, the beauty of that surface is once it's dried, it can be polished. You can take an abrasive diamond polish pad and re-smooth the surface if it gets rough. So if you have the pool for a few years and over time you get a few rough spots because the water chemistry wasn't right or something happened, you can take a polisher and re-polish it smooth. Where with Marsite, if you try to polish it, you just crumble the material underneath and you just get bigger and rougher spots. With the quartz-based finish, you can polish it smoother. That affords a lot of possibility and a lot of color, but you tend to still be in the whites with specks and flecks of color, although there are some tints as well that go in, but not as much, not exotic of a finish. That, I'm guessing, 20 by 40, you're in the $10,000 to $12,000 range to do a quartz-based finish. And then an additional option, I mean, there's a few other things beyond that, but the next layer of options would be a stone finish, a pebble-based finish. The advantage of a pebble-based finish is that once the pool is full of water, you have very little water exposed and touching cement and the cement Portland surface, because it's basically stone mixed in with a Portland cement, and when you acid wash, you expose the stone, so the majority of stone is interacting with the water, and the stone is pretty impervious to any damage to water because the stone has tumbled down the rivers for thousands and millions of years. It's pretty impervious to being damaged by the water chemistry of the pool. Pebble finishes afford a lot of different varieties of color, exotic finishes. There's glass that can be added. There's a lot of stuff that can be done to it. That's going to tend to break down less over time and give you a much longer warranty because majority of the surface of the pool is actually stone versus Portland cement. Cost on a 20 by 40 of that, all depending on color because there's a huge range here now based on light colors versus dark colors, and we're anywhere from 14 or 15,000, probably up to 17 or 18,000 dollars for that finish. Just to add one other piece in here is there are additional products and things that could be used instead of. And one of the things that we do here is we do what's called eco-finish. An eco-finish is a thermoplastic overlay over the existing surface. And it's a powder, thermoplastic powder, pumped through a center nozzle that's then protected by a layer of air, then is heated by a layer of flame. And when it hits the surface of the pool, it flashes and melts, and it gives you a really nice, soft, comfortable finish with a lot of variety and color and that type of thing. That is very much equivalent to, if you want price point, very equivalent to a pebble finish today. So on that same pool, you're probably $15,000 or $16,000 to do that same pool in eco finish. Their big advantage on eco finish is that the surface is smooth. It's now no longer concrete. It's no longer cement and stone, cement and sand, cement and marble dust, cement and quartz that you're walking on. It's now a thermoplastic finish. So it's going to be less impervious to water, and it's going to be more comfortable to swim in. But those are the ranges of what could be done, and it all really just depends on budget, looks, and longevity. How eventually those surfaces are going to have to be reworked again, and how long do you want to put that process off.